Open your Bibles with me, if you would, to Numbers chapter 1. We're in our Bible survey, and we have entered into the portion of the series that will be more like a survey. When you're in Genesis and Exodus especially, there's so much to digest. It's hard to just give a 40,000-foot overview. In Genesis, we learned of creation. We learned of the origin of sin, the fall of man, promise of Christ, and that's just in the first 3 chapters of Genesis, of the first book of the Bible. In Exodus, we learned and watched the deliverance of God's people out of Egypt. In Leviticus, we looked at the sanctification of God's people, the being set apart, the work of the tribe of Levi in the tabernacle and in the ceremonies and services of the tabernacle. Remembering that most of the book of Exodus is in Leviticus, all of the book of Leviticus is set in the first year after the children of Israel departed from Egypt. You have the giving of the law, you have the building of the tabernacle, the Spirit of God indwelling the tabernacle, all of the instructions given to the priests of the tribe of Levi and their duties and labors within the tabernacle, all of that within the first year of leaving Egypt. The book of Numbers is where we are tonight, and that will cover 39 years, where they could have gone into the land, but didn't. Were forbidden to, as we'll see throughout this study. The Numbers is named. It's a book by Moses. Should have had you turn to the very last verse of the book of Numbers, and we'll see something of its author. Numbers, the very last verse, so that would be chapter 36 and verse 13. These are the commandments and the judgments which the Lord commanded by the hand of Moses unto the children of Israel in the plains of Moab by Jordan near Jericho. So you have, these are the commandments and the judgments which the Lord commanded by the hand of Moses. Moses is the author. No real debate about that, especially the first 5 books of the Bible. No real debate about the fact that Moses was the author. And that seems to indicate that's exactly what it took place. So you have in the book of Numbers numbering of the tribe of Israel, of the 12 tribes of Israel. And it'll have to happen again. We'll see that as this unfolds. But there are 2 numberings of adult men ready for battle. Numbers covers the 39 years of the journeying of the children of Israel in the wilderness. The first numbering is in the first chapter. Chapter 1, verses 1 through 4, sets this before us. And the Lord spake unto Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, in the tabernacle of the congregation, on the first day of the 2nd month of the 2nd year after they were come out of the land of Egypt, saying, Take ye the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel after their families by the house of their fathers, with the number of their names, every male by their polls, from 20 years old and upward, all that are able to go forth to war in Israel. Thou and Aaron shall number them by their armies. And with you there shall be a man of every tribe, every one head of the house of his fathers. When you get to the end of the chapter, starting in verse, well, not all the way to the end, but starting in verse 44, these are those that were numbered, which Moses and Aaron numbered. And the princes of Israel being 12 men, each one was for the house of his fathers. So were all those that were numbered of the children of Israel by the house of their fathers, from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war in Israel. Even all that they were numbered were 600,000, 3,550. The way we would say that today is 603,550. But the Levites, after the tribe of their fathers, were not numbered among them, for the Lord had spoken unto Moses, saying, Only thou shalt not number the tribe of Levi, neither take the sum of them among the children of Israel. So you have the first numbering. We'll get to the second numbering in a little bit. You have the first numbering, and there's really three reasons, probably, that the Lord had, various commentators suggest as reasons for this numbering. And the very first reason for the numbering is to prove God's promise to the children of Israel. Here they were, just not that long of a time period before, God calls Abraham out of the Ur of the Chaldees, there in Genesis chapter 12, in verse 2, and he says, I will make of thee a great nation. And of course, Abraham and Sarah are not able to have children for decades. And it looks like, from the eye of flesh, there's no way. A great nation, he doesn't even have a child. And God reiterates that promise in Genesis chapter 15, reiterates it again in Genesis chapter 17, reiterates it again, I think it's chapter 18 or 19. And finally, that time says, and the child's going to come from Sarah. And so there's a promise given. And they go into Egypt, according to Exodus chapter 1, they go into Egypt 70 souls. Not exactly a great nation. Not exactly a huge nation. They come out of Egypt, numbering just the men that were able to go to war, 603,550. God kept his promise. I'm going to make of you a great nation. And greatness is not just in size, but look at the impact that the nation of Israel has had on the world. What advantage then, Paul says, has the Jew? Romans chapter 3. Much in every way, because unto the Jew was committed the oracles of God. What advantage has the Jew? He was the custodian of the Bible. He was the custodian of the Word of God. And so they were a great nation in impact as well as coming out of Egypt. And even Egypt was a mighty nation. And the Egyptians looked at the Israelites and said, they're getting far too big for our comfort level. They're getting far too powerful for our comfort level. They could overthrow us, and we don't like the idea of it. And so that set up the seeds for the departure of the children of Israel. Another reason for the numbering is pretty obvious. Set aside the Israelite men that were 20 years old and upward and able to go to war, and identify them. We want to see what we've got. That's another reason for the numbering. There's another hint that may be part of it, is that we're reminded from the book of Exodus in chapter 12, there was a mixed multitude that came out. There were some Egyptians that seemingly came along with the Israelites, and the numbering would provide a separating. These are those of the 12 tribes of Israel. And there would be a separating of that mixed multitude. So you'll have in chapters 2 through 8 or so, you have the various locations of the tribes where there's a subtle thing. We'll run into it, I think, through the course of the message. The 3 tribes, there were assigned locations: east of the tabernacle, 3 tribes; west of the tabernacle, 3 tribes; north of the tabernacle and south of the tabernacle, 3 tribes. If you were highly committed to knowing what, and remember, the tabernacle is the place where the Lord would meet with his people. The tabernacle is the place where the priest would get instructions from God. The tabernacle is the place where you had the leadership of the Lord identified, pillar of fire and cloud. And when that one or the other moved, it was time to move. It was time to pack up, load the tabernacle. Everybody was assigned their portion to haul, and it was time to move. And so if you were really interested in what the Lord was doing, you camp up close to the tabernacle. You're on the side that you were assigned, but you camp up close to the tabernacle. There were those on the fringes. They're like, I don't care what the Lord's doing. We'll find out soon enough. And we'll just be out here. We'll be where we're told, on the proper side of the tabernacle, but not all that interested in what God's doing in a moment-by-moment basis. And we'll run across a text tonight where there were some at the uttermost part of the camp that the fire of the Lord came out and devoured. And that gets your attention. But I remember Brother Clark Sr. preaching a message on that concept. Where are you camping? How close are you camping? How interested are you in the things of the Lord? Or are you just out on the fringe, just kind of hanging around? And it was an interesting concept, and obviously it was a thought that stuck. I think that's been 20 years since he preached it. I think he preached it at home conference many, many years ago. The second numbering was in chapter 26. Hence the title of the book, Numbers. But in chapter 26, a lot has transpired. We're going to go through this. I feel like now is a good time to point out the overview of the book. We have the second numbering, and starting in verses 1 through 4 again. And it came to pass after the plague that the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Eleazar the son of Aaron, the priest, saying, Take a sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel from 20 years old and upward throughout their father's house, all that were able to go to war in Israel. And Moses and Eleazar the priest spake with them in the plains of Moab by Jordan near Jericho, saying, Take the sum of the people from 20 years old and upward, as the Lord commanded Moses and the children of Israel, which went forth out of the land of Egypt. Verses 51 through 56. These were numbered of the children of Israel 600,000 and 1,730. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Unto these the land shall be divided for an inheritance according to the number of the names. To many that shall give the more inheritance, and to few thou shalt give less inheritance. And to every one shall his inheritance be given according to them that were numbered of him. Notwithstanding the land shall be divided by lot, according to the names of the tribes of their fathers shall they inherit. According to the lot shall the possession thereof be divided between many and few. So larger tribes got larger portions, and smaller got smaller portions, and so on. And that numbering was 601,730. So just 1,820 less than, 38 years 39 years beforehand. So let's go back and grab some of the context. Numbers chapter 9. Numbers chapter 9. And just to reiterate some of what I've already said in the opening remarks, read Number chapter 9, verse 15. And on the day that the tabernacle was reared up, the cloud covered the tabernacle, namely the tent of the testimony. And at even there was upon the tabernacle, as it were, an appearance of fire until morning. So it was always. The cloud covered it by day, and the appearance of fire by night. And when the cloud was taken up from the tabernacle, after that the children of Israel journeyed. And in the place where the cloud abode, the children of Israel pitched their tents. And so when the Lord would move, they would move. And when he would stay, they would stay. And the tabernacle was reared up. We covered that in Exodus chapter 40. After the Lord commanded Moses, and after the Lord commanded Moses, and he did what the Lord commanded, and he did what the Lord commanded, and the Spirit of God takes up residence in the tabernacle, and it's open for business. This coincides with that, and we're right in that same time frame within that first year or so of leaving Egypt, and the tabernacle, the law being given, the tabernacle being given the blueprints for and built and reared up, and the Spirit of God indwelling, and now the Spirit of God from the tabernacle moving when God wants to move the children of Israel around the wilderness, or when he wants them to stay. So Numbers chapter 10. The Lord, verse 1, the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Make thee 2 trumpets of silver, of a whole piece shalt thou make them, that thou may use them for the calling of the assembly, and for the journeying of the camps. And when they shall blow with them, all the assembly shall assemble themselves to thee at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And if they blow but with 1 trumpet, then the princes, which are the heads of the thousands of Israel, shall gather themselves unto thee. And when ye blow an alarm, then the camps that lie on the east part shall go forward. And you go through and read in chapter 10 the varying instructions. The journey begins. Look at verse 11. And it came to pass on the 20th day of the 2nd month of the 2nd year that the cloud was taken up off from the tabernacle of the testimony, and the children of Israel took their journeys out of the wilderness of Sinai, and the cloud rested in the wilderness of Paran. And they first took their journey according to the commandment of the Lord by the hand of Moses. And so this was the first moving of the Spirit. This was the first time after the tabernacle had been reared up. The assignments have been given about where you're north, south, east, and west. The instructions are given when you see the Spirit of God moving, you get ready to move. And that's where the concept was. Those that were truly interested in following the Lord's leadership, they were up close to the tabernacle, because we read in verse 3 that the assembly shall assemble themselves to thee at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. Stay up close, pay attention, see what the Lord's doing. And the journey begins. Chapter 11 and verses 1 through 4. Not only did the journeying begin, but within a couple months, so did the complaining. And when the people complained, it displeased the Lord, and the Lord heard it. And his anger was kindled, and the fire of the Lord burnt amongst them and consumed them that were in the uttermost parts of the camp. The assumption is, and what seems to be the right conclusion, those that were this kind of straggling along just at the fringes, not really all that interested, but hanging around anyway, they were consumed. The people cried unto Moses, and when Moses prayed unto the Lord, the fire was quenched. And he called the name of the place Taberah, because the fire of the Lord burnt among them. And the mixed multitude that was among them fell a-lusting. And the children of Israel also wept again and said, Who shall give us flesh to eat? Now they're only a year, just right around the year time frame of seeing all the plagues in Egypt that God exacted upon the gods of the Egyptian people. They're within a year of seeing the Red Seas part. The children of Israel go through on dry ground. They're within a year of seeing the Red Seas close back down on the armies of Pharaoh. They're within a year of seeing all of this. And it's as if they have seen none of it. What are we going to do? How are we going to eat? It's like the Lord doesn't have any ability to do anything for us. Where the mixed multitude was among them fell a-lusting, and the children of Israel also wept again. They got others going on the same bandwagon. Who shall give us flesh to eat? We remember the fish which we did eat in Egypt freely, and the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic. But now our soul is dried away. It's interesting that, and we'll see it again, this people that have been so blessed, this people that have seen the hand of God work so mightily, now don't know. They start to complaining, how are we gonna live? How are we gonna survive? And it only gets worse. Chapter 13. The Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Send thou men, that they may search the land of Canaan, which I gave unto the children of Israel, of every tribe of their fathers. Send ye a man, every one a ruler among them. And Moses, by the commandment of the Lord, sent them from the wilderness of Paran. All those men were heads of the children of Israel. And verse 4 starts the names. We're within a couple of months of the journey beginning. Complaining has started. Stragglers have been identified, and some of them dealt with by the Lord's fire. And now, go look and see. Think how quickly they could have been from getting past the Red Sea, taking some time to give the law of God, taking some time to get the tabernacle constructed according to the blueprint. A few months later, the journeying begins. A few months into the journeying, go look and see what I gave you. Go look and see the inheritance that each tribe is going to have. The spies are sent. Here in chapter 13, verse 25 through 33. They returned from the searching of the land after 40 days. And they went and came to Moses and to all the congregation of the children of Israel unto the wilderness of Paran, to Kadesh, and brought back word unto them and unto all the congregation, and showed them the fruit of the land, and they told him and said, We came into the land whither thou sent us, and surely it floweth with milk and honey, and this is the fruit of it. Nevertheless, bad word right there. Nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and very great. Moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. The Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, and the Hittites and the Jebusites and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea and by the coast of Jordan. And Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, "Let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome." Caleb could see, and Joshua could see, this is God has given. But when the men went up with him and said, "We be not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we," and they brought up an evil report which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, "The land, though we have gone in to search it, is a land that eateth up the inhabitants thereof, and all the people that we saw are men of great stature. We saw the giants and sons of Anak, which were come of the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so were we in their sight." 40 days. Their assessment was, first of all, not asked for by God. Their assessment was, we can't take the land. Oh, it's a wonderful place, but we can't take the land. So Joshua and Caleb in chapter 14 try to still the congregation. Joshua and Caleb in the first 10 verses of chapter 14, look at verse 6. "And Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, which were of them that searched the land, rent their clothes and spake unto the company of the children of Israel, saying, The land which we passed through to search it is an exceeding good land, and if the Lord delight in us, then will he bring us into this land, and give it us, a land which floweth with milk and honey. Only rebel not against the Lord, neither fear ye the people of the land, for they are bread for us." And so you have such an opportunity to go in and take the land. Very short period of time in comparison to the 38 or 9 years they're about to spend in the wilderness, having that whole generation die. Such a short period of time from the Red Sea experience, get the 10 Commandments, get the law of God well established in their hearts, get the tabernacle built, go into the land and possess it. And they said, we can't. God's pronouncement of the judgment here in chapter 14, starting in verse 26. "And the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, How long shall I bear with this evil congregation which murmur against me? I have heard the murmurings of the children of Israel, which they murmur against me. Say unto them, As truly as I live, saith the Lord, as ye have spoken in mine ears, so will I do to you. Your carcasses shall fall in the wilderness, and all that were numbered of you, according to your whole number, from 20 years old and upward, which have murmured against me." So we have the first numbering in chapter 1. 603,550 men of war of 20 years old and up. And they just got told, you're going to die in the wilderness. Every one of you. "Doubtless ye shall not come into the land concerning which I swear to make you dwell therein, save or except Caleb the son of Jephunneh and Joshua the son of Nun." That whole first numbering, 603,550, except for Caleb and Joshua, were going to be buried in the desert because of what Hebrews calls an evil heart of unbelief. chapter 26, verse 63. I want you to notice something. Chapter 26 and verse 63. These are they that were numbered by Moses and Eleazar the priest, who numbered the children of Israel in the plains of Moab by Jordan near Jericho. But among these there was not a man of them whom Moses and Aaron the priest numbered, when they numbered the children of Israel in the wilderness of Sinai. Not a man survived of that first numbering, because that generation was receiving the judgment of God for their, what Hebrews calls, an evil heart of unbelief. After the second numbering, you have chapter 33, and it's a review of the wilderness wanderings. Chapter 34, you have instructions to the new generation, and you would think the literal experience of all of those graves and all of that generation from 20 years old upward dying would be all the instruction that the new generation needed. We're going to follow the Lord. We're going to go in. And we'll get to that when we get to the book of Joshua, how that they did go in and take the land and so on. And we referenced it this morning. I always am amazed how the Lord dovetails messages together, where I started a Bible survey months and months and months ago, and it dovetails together with some comments that I had made this morning out of Hebrews chapter 3 as we were preaching this morning on men and women of faith. And here's a lesson for us in Hebrews chapter 3, a practical application of what you can glean from the book of Numbers. You have that original numbering, you have that disobedience and lack of faith and just not doing. The sin that so easily beset them was a lack of faith. They had seen God provide, they still had a lack of faith. They had seen God deliver, and they still had a lack of faith. They had heard God promise and always make good on His promise, and they still had a lack of faith. And so Hebrews, laying aside that sin that so easily beset us, is a lack of faith in its first understanding, and then any sin is still a besetting sin. But in Hebrews chapter 3, this event is commented upon. And notice what it says, verse 8. Harden not your hearts. Here's the application to us. Harden not your hearts as in the provocation, in the day of temptation in the wilderness, when your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my works 40 years. Wherefore I was grieved with that generation, and said, they do always err in their heart, and they have not known my ways. So I swear in my wrath, they shall not enter into my rest. That generation is not going in. Take heed, brethren, lest there be in any of you an evil heart of unbelief in departing from the living God. But exhort one another daily, while it is called today, lest any of you be hardened through the deceitfulness of sin. And then that sets the stage for the book of Hebrews, encouraging men and women to keep on keeping on. Encouraging men and women to take God at His promise. He means what He says and says what He means, and He always comes through with exactly what He says He's going to do. He told Abraham, I'm going to make you a great nation. A few hundred years later, there's 600,000 men that are ready for war of 20 years old and upward. A few years later, there's a people, a massive 3 million number of people leaving Egypt, God keeps His word. He always keeps His word. Numbers, the book of Numbers, shows us that. Even after that whole generation died off, and then you can read chapter 25, where there's 24,000 killed for disobedience and idolatry. And even with that whole first generation dying off, and that extra 24,000 in chapter 25, and the second numbering still is with 1,000 of the first numbering, because God keeps His word. God said, I'm going to make of you a great nation. And it wasn't the number they needed. It was, many times the Bible describes that it wasn't the larger army they needed. They needed the wisdom of God and the faith to follow God. But that's an overview of the book of Numbers. God numbering the people of Israel, preparing them to go into the promised land, having to spend 39 years getting rid of a generation that had an evil heart of unbelief, but then taking them in eventually into the promised land, dividing it up into the tribes the way that He had promised. Just a very practical book with some very practical takeaways about how important it is to camp close to the Lord. Try not to be out on the fringes, just waiting for everybody else to tell you what's going on. Stay as close to the Lord as you can and see Him moving moment by moment and follow Him. Let's stand.